All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. It is Wednesday, January 17th, and what a day. Another huge day in the market. And yeah, probably a little bit of an overreaction. I think a lot of people analyzing things, and it is what it is. I don't think it's that bad. In terms of the over analyzation, I just think that we've had an amazing run, and people are trying to figure out, when the next shoe to drop, not the next shoe to drop, but just like, hey, when this rally is actually going to start to fade a little bit. So just a review from what we talked about a little bit earlier today. And yesterday's move, even though we finished well off the highs yesterday, I'm just looking at S&P futures here. We never really broke, and we talked about this pre-market. We never broke I've got certain moving averages on my charts, both long and short. I've got the 200, and then I've got the 50, the 20, and the 5. And we've never ducked under the 5 since the beginning of the year. So are we stretched? Absolutely. Am I taking profits in trades? Sure, absolutely, where I think it's right. Am I doing a little bit of, putting on some trades in the morning and taking off a good portion at the end of the day? Yes. But I'm also leaving some trades on where I think they're not as extended as the overall market. So the other thing that's really, we could look at we could look at Nasdaq as well, and it's the same story since the beginning of the year. This has been an upswing, and right now uh, we're still in this upswing and we haven't broken. So it's your guess as good as mine. Are we overbought? Yes, absolutely, in Nasdaq as well. But your guess is good as mine is when trying to predict the end of a trend or an upswing, I think, is a little bit that's a fool's game, right? Is it appropriate to hedge at certain places? Sure. And I have one hedge trade on right now, and that hedge trade is losing money, and that's fine. That's what it should do, right? Your hedges are there for you in case something bad happens. Normally, we want our hedges to go to zero. So I do have a small S&P hedge trade on right now that's not working, but hey, that's a very small portion. And so, I just tabulated my performance year to date. Even with that hedge trade on, I'm up 36% year to date in options, and in the cash trend portfolio, I'm up well over 7% and outpacing the S&P by 3% year to date. So both really nice performance, and that is an astounding start to the year. Being up 36%, and just it's not even the end of January. We're I guess a little bit past halfway, but just kind of goes to show you what we've been capitalizing on, and how we've been executing. And it's not even so much that I'm picking trades. I think that that are stretched areas of the market. I think I'm really looking for setups that we're getting some clues from aggressive option activity, and just watching the setup work. So same thing with IWM. IWM is above. So there's a whole list of option activity for today. I could literally go through this probably. It's one of those days. I mean, you could see, for example, from yesterday, right? I mean, everything fit on one page for yesterday. There's probably about 3 or 4 different trades that I really liked yesterday. Today, you've got almost 2 pages of just the call activity. So let's start with the best performing group today, which was the semiconductors. And ASML was I would say, the catalysts. They had great earnings. They broke higher. They were up over 7%. And then it took a bunch of names with it. So we capitalized on this in the trading room. And again, like, this is where I think we're a lot different than other trading rooms that are maybe just sitting around and waiting for option activity. We got into, we figured what names have been setting up nicely that could really get a boost on the results from ASML. And I went into Applied Materials right around the open, about the first 5 or 10 or first or second 5-minute bar. And this ended up being up 5.2%. We had a couple of traders play LRCX, which was another home run. But again, the setup was there. These things haven't even been above the 50-day moving average. So that's what I mean in terms of names that, while the overall market has been overbought, These names are not. They're not even close to being overbought, right? I mean, they were in the beginning of the year for the most part of 2017, but they got beat pretty hard, and I think there's still more upside to go here. I'm still holding some Lam Research calls. The other signal that we saw, which I'm familiar with this name, but once I saw an aggressive call buyer, I jumped into this one, and even though it was a short-term trade, some clack calls, which again, it's these names have a high correlation to ASML. So if you know a little bit about the semi names, these will do pretty well. But this was a nice. I mean, look at the size trade that this went up. Again, not a name that we see a lot of activity in. It's a $500,000 trade somebody laid down. This was at 10:44 in the morning. So to going over the setup and seeing that the semis were something that hasn't really caught fire year to date, and then seeing this option activity was pretty tremendous, and some big wins in our trading room today. And then speaking of applied materials, I love it when I'm already in trades and they go and they buy. So I'm like sitting in this and I'm like, you're kidding me. They're buying applied materials calls, but it kind of makes sense. There's people looking at the same things that we are. Institutional traders, and it's a break higher. It's break above that. This consolidation, maybe a W pattern, a W pattern and a break higher above the 50-day moving average. So it's stalled here. Again, this is a name that we've had our eyes on for a while. So pretty nice stuff. There was also some MU calls going up. MU started to move higher as well. I mean, and Micron is not even above the 50, is just closed above the 50-day moving average. So that's your setup. Go long right here. Even though the stock was up 3% today, who cares? It's just got above the 50-day moving average, and that's your stop. You could also use that top of value as well, which is 43.69. Again, I love it when the moving averages line up with the value areas. Really gives them a good level to trade against. So that was the big story, for us. I mean, again, those semis, if you look at the SMH ETF, just closed up 3%. So again, talking about looking at things that haven't really, been a barn burner in 2018, and look at this 52-week high in the semis. So, and that's basically how it's been almost every day this year, or not, maybe at least every other day this year. It's been a different group that is seeing the option activity. And it's just been tremendous. It really has. So what else did we today? And I'm happy to show you the trades that I've done today, so that you could just get a feel of what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. But Kraft, which I'll go over as well, Clack. Teradyne was the big trade from yesterday. That was another huge winner as well. 52-week high. We got into that one yesterday after a big block of calls. Before that was mentioned on the CNBC halftime show. So another one. So this is why I'm up 38% in a couple weeks, because just the activity has been again, I'm saying the same thing, but it's just been tremendous. All right, so some other groups. Kraft. This is we've seen, for me, it takes an extra kind of kick for me to get involved in a name that's below a 200-day moving average. But we've seen Kraft calls now like 3 or 4 times. And they went after this, and I said, that's it. I can't just watch again and say, oh, there goes Kraft calls aggressively being bought again. So I have a level to trade against. Again, especially when you're trading something that's below 200-day moving average, my rule is to do a smaller than normal trade, because it is in a downtrend, and I view this as a riskier and harder trade for me. But we do have a nice level. We've got this purple line, which is the 50-day moving average. That could be your stop. Again, as long as you're making some reference to what you can do. We were talking about XLU yesterday, which I didn't see any major support. This, at least, it's reclaimed the 50-day moving average, and you can go from there. So that was another trade that we took today. And a few other trades that, Teradyne. So Apple, just a lot of good setups in some things today. I mean, take a look. Apple reports, I believe, February 1st. So it's break. I mean, this is a sideways base since November, and you've got a breakout. Play the, for me, play the breakout and see where it wants to go. A lot of these names are going to try to trap you. They're going to run into earnings, and then when you look to do an earnings trade, ooh, should I play this for earnings? It's going to run too far. So I think Apple is just starting to get out of that consolidation period, and we put on a trade, a real nice call spread to profit from a possible run into earnings. A couple other names that I'm looking at, and again, you can't take every trade. Disney, this is another name that hasn't done diddly squat for a while now. It's made this big move up in 2014, 2015, but it's been sitting for a while now in this sideways downward move. Let's see if it can get above. I have no position on right now. What crossed the tape today was some Disney, a big block of June 125 calls. Really interested in this trade, but let the price action prove it. Again, forget about my opinion. Let me see if I can have a technical level to trade against. And it just closed above value. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until it gets above this downward trend line. A couple other really interesting trades. One of my favorite trades of all of 2017. If you've listened to my videos before, I talk about the Chinese internet names. Why do I talk about them so much? Because they're the best performing group out of 2017 as well as 2018. So they're really rare to see calls bought, but it does look like somebody bought calls in the Chinese internet ETF. This was not swept, but still a $1.4 million dollar trade going out to May. At this point, I did look to put on a small starter trade in this one. I did not like I was trying to get filled. I was pressing and did not get filled. So this is one that I write down in my journal and say, hey, they bought these for 410. Maybe by chance I can get in on a dip in the next week or two. So again, you don't have to be in every trade right now. Just write them down and wait for an attractive entry point. Again, a lot of times you can get in cheaper than what goes up on the tape. NTS, speaking of Chinese internet names, a nice call buyer going out a couple weeks right around their earnings date. BLACKSTONE. This is another name that I think is really interesting. Just broke out of this area. It kind of fell back here a little bit, so I'm kind of just waiting maybe for a little bit of confirmation that this is going to hold. This breakout is going to hold in BLACKSTONE. But again, another name that's come up 3 or 4 times now. So I think this is another interesting trade, and they're going all the way out to January 2019 for the most part. There's been some shorter dated paper in there in BLACKSTONE, but I see a lot of that. FBHS, this name reports in a couple weeks. I did not take this trade, but nice aggressive looking trade. Masco, that's a name that we've seen a couple times now. Some calls in that one. Again, very interesting. AK Steel. So too many names to kind of go through. Another aggressive call buyer in PayPal. They just keep coming into PayPal. PayPal, again, breaking out. Looks great, and they're still buying up here. I mean, this was a nice size transaction. This was just 500 calls, but August 80 calls going up for $6. It's a $335,000 transaction hitting the tape. ILG, this is a trade that I did end up taking at the end of the day. So why would I put on a new trade right now? I don't have a trend line drawn, but I think the travel and leisure stocks are really perking up. We played MGM in the room. MGM is now breaking out, so this was a great looking breakout that I took last week. Just another killer trade, and again, not a name that's extended at all. Maybe a little bit today, but when I put that trade on, it's a sideways base. So there are plenty of setups like this. So I go back to ILG. Another travel and leisure name. Nice green bar today. It needs to do a little bit of work here, but it's above the 50-day moving average, out of a consolidation period. I think it's worth a shot. I took it. February calls. Again, short dated. They do report at the end of February, so that's why I didn't go out longer, which is always a little bit challenging with trying to enter into swing trades around earnings. In terms of energy trades, we are seeing more of those go up. PSX, which is, I think, the best play that I've seen, our best looking chart. I talked about this way back in November, that PSX was breaking out. before many of the energy stocks. I was in this trade. I made a lot of money in it. I dumped it about a week ago. Kind of a little bit foolish now looking at it, up another 3%, and that's 2 days in a row that they've been buying aggressive calls in this one. Just a few other trades to mention. There's a nice amount of HP, and I didn't get a chance to looking at this chart, so let's look at it together. This is another, I believe, industrial name. And you can see it's taking a while for this to come up on my charts, probably because I haven't looked at this in a long time. Yeah, it's been moving pretty nicely above the 200-day moving average, so it looks like somebody thinks that there's more ahead of it. But that was the February 75 calls that were going up. And then the last trade, I will say somebody snuck in some YNDX calls right at the end of the day. And again, I could be talking about the option activity for at least another 10 minutes, but I like to keep my videos this long and that's it. But also a name that's breaking out of a sideways base, YNDX, and it's still not at the 52-week high. This has been a name that we've seen a lot of activity, a lot of aggressive call activity in the last 6 to 9 months, but now coming out of this little sideways base. So again, looks pretty strong to me. Couple other trades just to point out. EDU call spread, KTOS calls were bought versus puts sold, and I think that's enough for one day. But yeah, certainly you can hit me up if you're looking for a trial, into the trading room. But for us, it's all about looking at some of these trades and really being picky and choosy. Again, there's no way that you could take every one of these trades, but really where the setup makes sense, then I pull the trigger on trades and get involved. And I have reasons to do that. Again, you should always have, and if you're in a trading room, they should always be giving you at least 2 reasons, even 3 reasons is even better, why you're getting into a position, why it makes sense. So that's kind of my logic as well. I post a lot of setups. We have an analysis and chart section that members can go in and see where even the trades that I don't take. Like I didn't take YNDX today, but hey, here's all the info behind it. Same thing with ILG. I took this trade. This is what I said. It's in my wheelhouse of trades in terms of names that I've been looking for. We put together a really big section of the newsletter last weekend where we talked about the travel and leisure stocks. A lot of them breaking out, both casinos, airlines, hotel names, and the cruisers as well. All right, guys, have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.